Well, hi, Colin. How are you doing?
Well, fine, Nigel. Do you know this is our 24th podcast?
Well, I didn't realize that. Well, but that's a great achievement. Well done, you. You're the boss. The older man's always the boss. But that's really good. Should we crack on with it?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, today we're talking to John, who's had a fascinating career. And then in the last few years, he's been pretty busy as well. So we're just really, really interested to hear about it.
Okay. So, John, hello. And I hope you're on top form today.
I do my best.
You do fine. And can I start by asking, what did you do before retiring?
Yeah, I've retired more than once in reality because I was, until I was 52, I was finance director of the CEGB, followed by the National Grid company. And that was my main career. I thought I was destined to become at least deputy chairman of the CEGB. And that would have happened if privatisation and a few other things hadn't occurred. But you all know what happened. And then joined the National Grid Group as finance director. And that was a very different incarnation. I unfortunately didn't get on very well with the chairman at the time. I freed up from the grid to pursue what was called a portfolio career instead, right the way back then. In that, I chaired a variety of small companies, including an American company, mainly energy sector, a bit of technology sector as well. So that was, in a sense, a second career. But while doing that, I decided that I'd indulge my taste in literature a little bit, and I started writing a novel. And I managed that. While also writing the novel, it also prodded me into views from the past. And I'd always been a guy who'd taken religion seriously, Christianity seriously, and I decided to do a degree in divinity. So I then, on the kitchen table, using the offices of the National Extension College, who are the ones who actually did the divinity degree on the kitchen table, I went and did the external London degree in divinity. So by the time I was 60, having freed up, I'd run a big portfolio career, then got a degree in divinity, and I'd written the first of my novels.
Wow.
My 50s was quite a productive decade. At the same time as bringing up, with my wife, of course, mainly with a young family. We have 3 children, and that was all happening at the same time.
Was there a sort of point where you fully retired from your businesses, or did they sort of carry on?
Well, they tend to give you up, of course, too. If you're successful running a portfolio career, you actually sell the business, and that happened 2 or 3 times. I got some successful sales. The problem is, if you do a portfolio career, you do as much due diligence as you can as to what company you're letting yourself into. But by the time you've gone 10 years down the line, you've got the odd dog as well.
Yes, yeah.
And the last part of the portfolio career was finding a home for a couple of dogs, if I'm honest, without them going to the wall. They didn't go to the wall, I'm pleased to say.
Wow. So when that was over, what were the first 6 months like after that? Because it was a big change in your life at that stage.
I was into my 60s by then, and then it was publicising
Yes.
the book. The book became the books, as I wrote a follow-up, and then now I've written a fourth, which is being published next week. The first lot I called the Unholy Trinity trilogy, and they were about the same characters. The last book, The End of the Line, is totally new characters, and it was designed to be something slightly different. I think it was built on, I'd had a very successful business career until it wasn't. You know, all business careers end in failure. So it is said, like all political careers. But I had a very successful business career and possibly hadn't realised how I'd handled that and what had happened. And so in writing this fourth book, I've tended to make the principal character, another businessman, but he's nothing like as successful. He's not made the move from the Northwest to London. I mean, I made the big bad move to London, 22 or something like that, you know, very, very young. He never did it. He carried on living in the Northwest, and he was less ambitious in other respects too. He does write novels, but they're not successful. Not saying that mine were either, but he's not that successful in writing novels.
Okay.
at the end of the book, he lived with his first wife, and she died sadly. And he, out of the blue, met somebody from the past, from the deep and distant past. Yeah. Really was. His first wife had been a childhood sweetheart. His second lady had also been a childhood sweetheart. He'd been a bit greedy when he was younger. They get together again. And this fourth book is about how they get on like a house on fire, of course. And it is about second chances, what they mean, how they work.
So using this as almost like it's a story, but it's advice that, that people can use in retirement.
I think so. Go for it would be the advice. If you did have a strong relationship, he had a strong relationship with both ladies when he was a teenager and the late and early 20s. And eventually, the older one had given him the ultimatum. And she was the one who seemed to be going places. She'd been sort of head girl at grammar school and things like this. So he went with her. And the other one immediately found herself another man. And then they didn't see each other until death did bring them together again. Partners had died and they were back together
If you
again.
had to sum up your 3-4 books in a sentence, could you do that? What you're trying to achieve?
The novel is about the whole tableau that's displayed. And but it would be showing that there is, in the end, there is meaning to life. It may not appear so, but there is meaning to life.
Well, that's super. That's a very good sentence. And have you got more books in you?
I don't know, to be honest. I mean, the fact that I call this one The End of the Line would suggest not. I thought the last one, The Dove is Dead, was also the last one. When I finished the trilogy, I thought that's the end of it, and I've written. So nothing's excluded.
You went from business to writing. I think there was an overlap, you said. You started writing before.
There's no overlap when I was writing while I was doing the portfolio career as non-executive chairman.
Yes. So when you'd finished with business, was it difficult in any way to readjust to life, a new life?
I think yes, in the sense that your diary wasn't as full. You woke up in the morning and you didn't know what you were doing. It wasn't whereas before, I'd always, from leaving uni, I'd always had a diary. I worked for the man, and suddenly you found that you hadn't got that much of the time. And I mean, you make silly moves at that stage too. I joined the golf club, for instance. Now, if I was giving advice to future retirees, it would be, don't join the golf club.
Love it. I love
it. Unless you really are keen. I've been a keen sportsman in my youth, football and cricket, of course,
Yeah.
And taking to golf in your 60s, I was okay. They said, oh, yes, you're okay, but I was never going to get much good at it.
Follow on from that, John. So don't join the golf club. What would you say? What's the reason behind don't join the golf?
It wasn't that serious a remark, of course. It's because I wasn't very good at it, basically. And you're meeting a set of people at the golf club who don't necessarily share all your interests. There are very many different sorts in the golf club, and the many guys and gals you get on with well as a few who are a bit stuffy, should we say. I enjoyed it. I liked the bar, I like the dining room, I enjoyed the competitiveness to an extent. I was, I was good at two sports. One wasn't cricket. I played a lot of cricket too, but I wasn't a terrific cricketer, but I was a very good footballer. And when you've been good at something, then you are not keen of not being very good at something. I was also a good table tennis player.
Okay, so your best friend is due to retire. What advice would you give him or her?
It would depend whether the retirement was chosen or involuntary, I suppose, to begin with. But if it was a chosen retirement, it would be indulge your interest as much as you can. If it's involuntary, and he or she was thinking, should I try to get back on the business bandwagon or whatever other bandwagon it was, then I would say be realistic. You're not likely in a second career to get as big as you were in your first career.
Yes.
So that's interesting, sort of the reality of what you've got to aim at. So if you're involuntary and you might be 50 years old or something, then you're saying realistic, be realistic.
But on the other hand, you might need the dosh at 50 years of
Well,
age.
yes.
I didn't. I was fortunate that I retired on a full pension and didn't have to
Well,
worry
you
about
had a
the
very
dosh.
senior job, didn't you?
Yes, yes, and at that stage, we were in the private sector by then, but of course, the old public sector pension was also behind you.
Yes.
So it was a handy financial position
So
to be in.
can I just ask, going back to the writing, are you an indie author or do you have a publisher?
I'm an indie author. I have a PR advisor, literary PR, who helps put the books out there. I've used KDP Kindle to put the first 3 out. We're trying something a little different with the last one, York Publishing, and let's see how they get on.
Okay,
It's
you're publishing.
too early,
Okay,
really,
and how's that
to tell. It's
going?
a very pleasant relationship, but it's too early to tell. Yeah. Let's see what sales they produce. Because to be fair to Kindle, I have managed to sell, a few hundred books each time, which is quite respectable, if you like, when you realise how Saul Bellow put out a new book. He doesn't sell that many, if you know what I mean. Book sales are not great, are they, in general? And yet, a lady at my local church said, I put out a knitting pattern book, and I sold thousands.
Right, you should get into knitting patterns. At the end of this, we'll put a link to your book because obviously it's relevant for us in that it's retired people and all the rest of it. So I think it's very interesting for people to read.
And I've got another question, follow up on the books. If you had a friend say to you, John, I want to be a writer as well, what advice would you give me?
How well do you write would be my first question. Blowing my own trumpet a bit, I didn't realise, even until probably the second book, that I had my own style, which people liked. There's a John Utley style to a book. I used to love Graham Greene novels. I always say, his books were full of Catholic guilt. I always say that mine are full of Anglican innocence. Innocence of Graham Greene's guilt that came with all his books. Writing well matters, I think. If you're going to be, you've got to say, are you a good writer? Because most of us aren't.
So I think that's very, very good advice, write well, but how can I learn to write well might be the question from that person. So you've got to be born with it and you can really learn it. Yes. Interesting.
This has been lovely to talk to you, John. And, we really wish you all the best with this book and your other books. It's been a really interesting conversation.
I've really enjoyed it too, John. Thank you.
Are we all done now?
Well, I think so, Cole. Yes, that's been really, really interesting.
Right.
Thank you.
So thanks very much, John.
Thank you. Well, Colin, another interesting interview. And we had John with us, and he's had an incredible life, hasn't he?
Yes, definitely.
And what a background. He was an Oxford graduate, and at a young age, he worked his way up to become financial director of the National Grid.
Yeah, it's amazing. And then he said, and this is really interesting, at 52, he left there, but then he got into this sort of portfolio career, and he was chairing companies, technology companies, using his knowledge from energy in the past. So he's getting involved in that. And then he took a degree in divinity. So he said his 50s were a very busy time.
Yes, absolutely. Very interesting. And advice for when you retire, he said, don't join a golf club, which is what he did, which we were quite surprised, but he said he wasn't good enough. And he was a very enthusiastic sportsman, cricket, and particularly said he was a very good footballer when he was younger. So he didn't want to become now a poor golfer. So looking at in that background, you can understand it.
Yeah, absolutely. And then when we asked him directly, what advice would you give? And he's the first person, but he sort of split out and he said, what? If it's chosen, so I choose to retire, then indulge your interests, indulge what you enjoy and what you're good at. And then he said the involuntary, and this was interesting, be realistic. So if you look at him, one moment idea of a national company, kind of money-wise, don't expect the same again. So reality, which I think
Reality,
is
yeah. And then very interesting is since then he's written 4 books, which is a heck of an achievement, really. And he summarizes the books. Why he wrote them was to give life meaning. And I thought that was very interesting, and to make the most of life, of every moment you have. And particularly, this was the emphasis of his latest book, number 4. I asked him, how do you become a writer? And he believes that you're born with the skill, born with the ability to write, and then you develop your skills. And he mentioned Graham Greene, who he admired greatly. So a very, very interesting life, I'd say, Colin.
Yeah, definitely. So we can put a link to his recent book at the end of this, and that is particularly interesting because it is covering retirement and second lives and so on. So it'd be a good read. Nice, we've got to do some shopping.
Yes, I think that's very good. Now, Colin, what have you forgotten again?
Well, what you have to do is press the little button at the bottom, the subscribe button, please.
Yes.
And then more people can listen to this and more people can enjoy them.
Yes, and we're getting very good numbers, aren't we, Colin?
I can't quote, but they're very impressive.
Okay, so press the button.
Press the button.
Thank you, Colin. Yet another great result.
Brilliant. So it's encore and out from me.
And it's encore and out from me too. Goodbye.